I think you said it. You thought there was going to be a Celtics-Lakers final. Did the real team make the finals?
Right. Yeah. I think
Celtics. Actually, okay, now I got to take the hat off.
Yeah.
Stay around for just one more question.
Sure.
What's wrong with this Celtics team? And is it the chemistry with the players in the locker room, or is it something that Danny Ainge needs to rearrange? Obviously, you know that they need a big, but what? Help me digest. The pieces just don't put into place. And a lot of people have their opinions, but I'm not quite sure. What's wrong with the Celtics?
Too many Indians. I don't see a Chief.
Okay. Yeah.
The Indians are amazing. I just don't see a Chief.
Yeah. Okay.
I see 3 that are possible, but someone has to grab the mantle and lead. And right now, you can be young and lead. There needs to be a strong voice, and I don't see a strong enough voice to the league.
Mm-hmm.
Someone needs to vocally be a voice to the rest of the league that says this is our team, but I'm leading this, and you're going to have to contend with me. I thought it would be Jason at this point in time. I just don't see enough. I don't see enough vocal leadership there. Jaylen Brown has, I think, done it in areas at different times, but I don't know if they're following him that way yet. And then Kemba Walker's always been that silent leader, but he may, someone needs to evolve into the next iteration of their game, not necessarily their play, just more their voice, because you have it in a coach. I love the coach. I think he's great. I think he's guided the group in a group sense. He's kept a lot of great players focused on the core values of why they're all together, but still, at the end of the day, there has to be an alpha among the alphas, and there can be 2, and I'm okay if the 2 rise to the top and the 2 don't get along. I don't care about that. As long as they respect each other and challenge each other. But there's an iteration that has to go. You have to go to another level, and it's kind of sitting there, but someone has to take it. And this league in general, you end up taking a championship. You end up really taking a lot of what you want from this league. It's never given to you. You can glide around and float around and be really good in this league, but to stand out to the level of excellence, of legacy and legend status, you turn into a bully and you start taking things. And I don't know if I see enough bullies on the Celtics.
I think that they are bullies with each other. Did you play for Rick Pitino when you were drafted by the Celtics?
I did not.
I played
Red Auerbach drafted me back in 1991, and I played 6 years for the Celtics. 1 year with Larry Bird, 2 with Kevin McHale, 3 with Robert Parrish. Played in the old Boston Garden and in the new Fleet Center at the time, and played there for 3 years. And then Rick Pitino came in, and he and I had a few conversations. Thought we were going to work together, but he had a gaping hole in the center position, which he needed to fill. We had 2 picks at the time. We were hoping to get the first and second in the draft that year. We ended up with the 2 worst picks we could possibly get, a third and a sixth. Yeah. So we needed a big guy, and he went and signed Travis Knight. I don't know if you remember Travis Knight, to a 7-year deal for $21 million. And Rick was, I think, stepping into he'd been in the NBA before, if I recall. I can't remember. I think he had been with the Knicks. But he was stepping back in and taking over responsibilities, not only as a coach, but as a GM and president. I think he had everything under his umbrella.
He had the Bill O'Brien juice.
Yeah, he had a lot of juice.
Plays, be the GM, the coach, everything.
Yeah, but I was one person he couldn't supersede, and that was David Stern. And so when he made the decision to sign Travis Knight before he got me figured out under the cap, it triggered a reaction from the league and from David. And he forced Rick to pick between one of the 2, And in Rick's defense, he did come along with Red Auerbach. They did call me right away, and they said, "Hey, we made a mistake. We don't want to lose you. We want to keep you here, but we need you to wait until January to sign a contract." I was like, "Oh, well, let me get this straight. You tell me you wanted me to be your captain for your new team, and yet you chose a rookie from the Lakers instead." So I decided to open up my options at that point. Wished him well, and ended up obviously moving out west.
Even still, as you left, the Celtics have a gaping hole at center. So nothing really has changed. It's remarkable to me that you remind me about your years with the Celtics and all of the names that you had mentioned. And then technically you moved on to another destined team that won three NBA champions. You played with Kobe Bryant and Shaq and yourself playing a huge role on that team. What was the best team that you played on, I would say, of those 3 years with the Lakers?
So there was, I would say 2000 and 2001, the second year after we figured out how to win. We made it through that 2000 season, won our first championship together. The group at the core of the second one was a group of guys that came in and really, from Kobe to Shaq, Derek Fisher was drafted the same year as Kobe Bryant. Myself, I was free agent at signed, and Robert Horry was traded in. That core group of five guys, I think anchored. We'd gone through a lot of losing together. We got swept by the San Antonio Spurs. They got swept by the Utah Jazz. These 2 years in a row, we just, we couldn't put it together. When we finally did, we kind of got our chance as a nucleus of five guys to go forward and figure out how to dominate. And we got on a wavelength that was pretty special. We won a third one, but it wasn't the same wavelength we were on that second year. We were pretty invincible. We had other great players there too. Ron Harper, Brian Shaw, Horace Grant came in from the Bulls era, and so Devin George. We had a nice deep nine guys that that year were pretty invincible.
Speaking of the Lakers now, obviously it's a different type of Lakers team. This isn't, 9 deep of players, but you have an incredible dynamic, potentially one of the greatest. I know we shouldn't determine who is the greatest, but LeBron James, a 3-time champion with 2 other teams. You have a guy, like Anthony Davis with a role on the defensive end. He has role versatility and the ability to guard bigs and guards. What's better? Is it having a robust roster where you can rotate guys in off of the bench, having that full bench, having that full starting 5, or really like this Lakers team is just having the right pieces that fit?
Yeah, but the pieces have to fit. I think you have to be anchored with special players, at least 2 of them. Sometimes if you're fortunate, you can get 3 of them. But having a 1-2 punch, as we had with Shaq and Kobe in the case here, LeBron and AD, that's gonna be a great starting point for any franchise. In the case of the Lakers, we've done that well over the years. We've always been able to find 1 or 2 players that are at the top 5 to 6 players in the league. And when you put the right pieces around individuals like that, especially to some degree, I think everyone has to be a defensive oriented, efficient defender, and you have to actually be able to think the game at a high level. So you may not be a star in your own right from say 3 to 7 on the roster, but you're able to support superstars and at moments in the season or in a series play like a superstar, even if it's only for a quarter or 2. And you've seen that. I mean, KCP in the last game was an example of that. We've seen Danny Green be that over the course of his career. I'm watching Kuzma, have spots as a young player of figuring it out. And then Caruso. And Rondo. I mean, you can't forget Rondo, who's been a Celtic and now a Laker, who's won championships in Boston. And it just, you can tell, makes the right play at the right time to get it done. So I've been impressed with the collective. But at the anchor of all of that is LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And if you start there, you're gonna have a pretty darn good shot to have some success.
Do you think this Lakers team is a team of destiny?
I definitely feel with the tragic loss of Kobe in January and the COVID environment and the bubble. There's a lot that I think could have transpired in that down period, especially with age. An individual like LeBron, some of those players on that team are not young. So when you shut the body down for a period of time like that and try to start it up again, that's pretty hard to do. And especially at the age that LeBron is at. And I don't think he ever shut it off, which was smart on his part. Kept the faith that they would return.
Yeah.
And he stayed sharp, as did Rondo, as did AD and the rest of the guys on that team. They stayed sharp, and they met the challenge of that bubble probably better than anyone, except maybe the Phoenix Suns for that 5-game stretch. They just went bananas. How many games they went bananas for. But I've been impressed, and I think it's destined because of the focus, the central focus of the Laker organization right now is in the season alone has been honoring Kobe Bryant and everything that he's meant to us as an organization, and to those players. Obviously, a huge mentor and an influence on their own personal careers. LeBron's won, and AD has won gold medals in the Olympics with him. So there's a tight bond that has kept the focus on playing the game the right way, keeping it about the Laker organization and winning a championship and really ending this season in honor and remembrance of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. Going back to that day, I've known you personally for about 15 years, goes back family ties. You're probably the only connection that I've ever had to Kobe. I think I probably back in the day had walked past him, and that's probably the deepest connection. But we all know Kobe had a greater purpose in life, and he was destined for great things. And we lost him so tragically on that day. And unfortunately, in the onset of media, your name had been tied into that helicopter crash, something that really dropped me to my knees. It was devastating, and I know the pain that your family went through. What were those first 30 minutes like for you? How many fires did you have to put out? What was it like?
It was paralyzing and horrific. Just to be digesting the possibility that what I was seeing on television was real. Didn't want to believe that at all. First places I went to were to my kids, because I just wanted to make sure if they were getting this news that Kobe had passed or was in that helicopter crash, that they heard it from me, and that I could talk to them. I could talk them through it, and also I just needed to connect with them in that moment. And as the phone was just kind of ringing and ringing and ringing, I just assumed in that moment, as I was talking to them, that people wanted to just, talk about the horrific, tragedy that had happened. And I figured I would get to them at some point. But it just kept, people that were closest to me, like my friend King Rice, who I've known for, since college, and my sister, they just kept calling over and over and over. And I finally hung up with Sasha, and I answered, and it was my buddy King, and he was just bawling, he was crying, and initially I thought he was crying I started to cry too, but he said, "Thank God you're alive," and it kind of threw me for a loop, and I didn't understand why he would think I would be I'd passed, and they're reporting that you were in the helicopter. And at that moment, I was so glad, first that I'd spoken to my kids. And then again, like I said, my phone just would not stop. I answered my sister. I answered Scooter Braun, who was at the Grammys. And he was just, wanting to hear my voice to make sure that he could let everybody know there that I was okay. And for about the next hour, it was literally like just talking people off a ledge. My mom, making sure that they realized I was still here and that I was okay. But at the same time, I really felt robbed of a moment to mourn, and to actually stop and I wanted to drive out to the site. I didn't get to do that. There was a lot of things that I found myself managing in that moment that I didn't expect to manage. And then I became a part of the story, which wasn't really about, and shouldn't have been about me at all. It should have been just about, his family and how they were doing, and trying to connect to them and supporting them. So I was glad that the people I love and care about, I was able to, at least calm their nerves and give them peace. But then we ended up again crying again about the fact that we all lost somebody special to us.
What was the last conversation that you had with Kobe? Did you have plans together for the future? I know Stephen A. Smith had talked about running into Kobe during a New Year's Eve party, and this smile was ear to ear, and he had so many things he was working on in his life, and he was at his happiest peak. Can you share like one of your last conversations with him, or just a memory that you would like to remember him, not the sad times, just in happier days?
Yeah, I think one of the personal memories I have now, that was the opportunity probably 8 months later that I was able to kind of say goodbye to him. Took me a minute. It really took me a long time to process him not being here and not seeing him, not talking to him, not watching him continue to progress in his impact on so many people in and outside of basketball, in the professional world of business, and just being an inspiration and a leader in general in life. I got a chance to go to Cody, Wyoming recently, and I was there just to connect with a friend, and I got to walk up about 10,000 feet in the air and sit there at the top of this mountain, and I felt so close to God, but I also felt so close to Kobe in that moment, as it was just quiet, and I was up there, and I felt his spirit, and I felt that we were there together, and I was alone, and I just got to say thank you, and I got to say goodbye, and got to share one last tear, and I just started to think about all the things we'd experienced together and all the joy that we'd had, and I don't know, I just felt like he was just letting me know it was okay to get back to life, and to continue to carry the torch that he was carrying, where he was just impacting so many people with the positive energy. He was being such an amazing father and husband to his family. It's drawn me closer to my kids, thinking about how precious our impact can be on our kids and on their life and their growth. How precious and impactful our lives can be to people around us, whether we're aware of it or not, by the things we do and the things we say and the way we carry ourselves. So I just felt inspired by that moment. I was really grateful for it, and I was glad I was able to really kind of say goodbye finally after such a long time. So we have lots of memories. I see him on social media daily.
Yeah.
The beauty of targeting in social media is they know exactly what I'd want to watch. The
Instagram algorithms are just
algorithm's been amazing in that regard. I get a Kobe fix, I kid you not, on a daily basis. I'm seeing stuff from him that I never saw before, and I'm appreciating the fan love and art and tributes, and it just really warms my heart, and I get to see it. So he's still here with me on my phone daily, and I love coming across just highlights and memories of us together and seeing us, at different times. But he was a dear friend, and my life changed immensely being connected to him and the rest of the Laker organization. But it changed immensely getting to know him.
One of the most remarkable things about Kobe, because I know that you're sharing a sentiment that a lot of people also felt, and a lot of people around the world. It is so remarkable that one person can have an impact as much as Kobe did, obviously with his connection to basketball globally and him reaching out to the WNBA. Of all of the attributes that Kobe had, he was a father, he was a friend, he was a mentor. his connection with LeBron James. And I can only imagine the feelings and the emotions that LeBron is trying to fulfill a dream for Kobe. You said it yourself. It made you pretty spiritual. Do you know the extent of that relationship, or how much Kobe is on LeBron's mind as well, just to fulfill and get the Lakers banner 17, I believe?
Yeah. I've had one moment with LeBron since he's been out here, and it was a quiet, special moment for me, because I am so grateful for first of all, his courage to enter a situation like the Laker organization at a time where it had been in such a drought since Kobe left, and Kobe's such a monumental figure, as is Magic and Kareem and so many, Jerry West, and so many of the other legends that have been legends of basketball, let alone legends in the Laker lore. But so much courage to make the transition. Could have gone anywhere in the league. Could have stayed in Cleveland. Could have gone back to Miami. He could have done a lot of different things, but he chose to acknowledge, the Laker organization by coming and accepting that challenge, putting that on his back, on his shoulders, to try and return it to the position it's in right now. But I was just really just grateful to him for really, in Kobe's passing, really stepping into that position of really accepting the only thing that would probably soothe the pain of the city and all of the fans that love the Lakers and love Kobe, which would to be honor him by guaranteeing we get through the season with a championship. And I could just sense that in the moment we got to share, that really it was about that for him. And no matter what he came here to do, whether it was his own legacy or not, that he was willing to put that on hold to focus on just honoring Kobe and honoring his legacy and the memory of him this season. And so I'm just grateful for that. And it was actually the last game before the season was shut down. And it was the Lakers Clippers, and I didn't get to see him. I haven't gotten a chance to see him since, but I really appreciate all of them, but also him for taking that responsibility to another level.
Yeah. Game 5 is later tonight. Personally, to me, watching the Celtics going up against a very talented Miami Heat team, you know what Pat Riley is capable of doing and putting this together. And I got to tell you, in those waning moments of game 6 of the Celtics and Heat, Pat Riley's face was just monotone. It was silent. And I think that because he knew of what he was going up against with the Lakers in that next round and the powerhouse. And I mean, at least in my opinion, there's nothing that the Heat can do that will stop the Lakers tonight from taking the championship. Why is it going to be so convincing when the Lakers win, either tonight or in Game 6?
Well, I would give the Heat a lot of credit for piecing together what they put together this year. I mean, it's impressive to beat a Celtic team that I thought it was going to be a Lakers-Celtic finals.
Yeah.
So I've been impressed with Jimmy Butler, his leadership, but also just the growth of young hero and
Adebayo.
And that crew at large. They got a bright future ahead of them. But I think just the experience of LeBron and what he is able to guide a group of men through to finality of a championship is I think is a little too much for the Heat this year.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think they'll go out quietly. They could win tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Heat win tonight. But I just think at the end of the day, LeBron will this team to a championship if he has to drag them to the finish line himself personally. And I thought he was pretty passive in Game 3, and so I think we saw him even a little more passive in Game 4 than he should be probably. But they got the win. In that fourth quarter, he made the plays he needed to make. But I think tonight you'll see him seize the moment and be more aggressive
Um, Talking about some other stuff in your life, you were a former esports franchise owner. I know your son Kyle is a
Yeah.
gamer.
Yeah.
The Einstein hair is something. You got something going on in there.
Yeah.
Got something going on. Something's brewing.
Something, yeah.
Besides the hikes to Wyoming and
Yeah.
giving thanks and gratitude. Well, what's Rick Fox been up to?
A little bit of the norm, which is the entertainment career is shut down out here for the most part. No TV and movie work for a lot of us. I'll start some of that up again in the new year. In the meantime, the esports and gaming universe has been a big part of my life the last 6 years. Sold out of my esports org a year ago, and had partners that wanted to reap this the 30x success we had. They figured, hey, very few investments make you 30x your money, so they wanted to get out. I couldn't argue with that. Wasn't really happy about it, but I shifted into making video games. So I started a company with two very established, seasoned legends of game development, and the three of us formed a company about a year ago, and we'll bring our first game, to the market in a year, probably at the end of 2021. But it's garnered a lot of really prominent investment and some really talented industry folks that are a part of it as well. So I'm excited about that, and then believe it or not, the dad in me has dominated the COVID era. Sasha and I have spent a ton of time together. We and Kyle and as well, walking and talking, working out, and trying to stay connected. I think they know their dad a lot better than they knew him before, because they've gotten to spend the kind of time and ask the kind of questions that I think they would have probably asked later on as they gotten older. But we got to some of that a lot sooner than probably I expected to get to. But we had a lot of time on our hands, so I think they know a lot of stories about me in college. They know a lot about they know a lot more about me than they probably should know.
Right now, I need a Rick Fox UNC story.
Oh
my first clapback question was going to be, movie star Rick. You've always been, it was you and Ray Allen.
Yeah.
Did Ray back in the day? He really got game.
Ray and I came across. I can't post these. I wish I had them here somewhere. I don't know where they're at. But I came across some Polaroids from He Got Game. We shot that infamous scene, and we took Polaroids for some reason. I don't know who did or why, but I kept them, and I came across these Polaroids from that infamous shoot. And the young ladies at the time were professionals, actual professionals, and famous professionals too. So I think we thought it was funny to have these Polaroids of documenting that scene. But yeah, have them somewhere. He Got Game was. I have a He Got Game story that I always look back on, and I think, and it was the audition day. The audition day that I drove from Boston to New York to audition for Spike Lee. And the reason I even got the audition was because I walked up to him at half court of a Celtic Knicks game, and I asked him if he, had an apprenticeship or if I could come work with him in the off season, because I wanted to be in the entertainment industry when I was done playing basketball. And he said he was making a movie and told me that that if I came down when the season was over, then I could audition for a role. And so I drove down and I did that, and I walked into the audition room office, and signing in, and out walks Mila Djokovic. She was a model at the time and hadn't really acted. It was her first acting role as a prostitute in this movie. She went on to obviously do all of the Resident Evil movies and a ton of other movies. She became a big star. She walked by, and then as I was signing in walked an 18-year-old Rosario Dawson, who had just gotten off of this movie Kids, I guess, that was like a hit. I didn't know who she was. Young girl signing in as well, and she asked to borrow my headphones so she could work on her scene, and I lent her my headphones, and then I signed in, and Ray came in, and Travis Best came in, and we went in to do the audition, and in the room was Spike Lee, and and Isha Tyler, I think it is her name, the casting director. I hope I got her name right. It's been so long. And we did the scene, and the scene went really well. And we hear this clapping, and Spike and the casting director are clapping, and we're wondering who's clapping. And sitting on the floor in the closet with the door off was Denzel Washington, and he like stuck his head out. And the first time we all met Denzel, but it was in that moment that he was kind of giving us the thumbs up for the audition, and kind of signing off on us with Spike and the casting director, and the rest is history. He Got Game was shot 20-something years later. It's like one of the greatest basketball movies ever made, and so that's a memory I have of playing at college. Chick Deegan, I played Chick Deegan, the college player that recruits Ray Allen's character Jesus Shuttlesworth to Tech U. I fail. Two people I successfully failed. I call it successfully failing. Two people I successfully failed at recruiting to college was Shaquille O'Neal to North Carolina. Took him out to a club, and all the girls were more paying attention more to me than him, and so he was like, "I can't come here."
That's always the worst. You can't someone that's gonna get all the girls that are.
Yeah, it was just like, it's not gonna work for me here.
Like, no, I'm out.
Yeah, and then Ray Allen, Jesus Shuttlesworth.
How did that work out for you?
I failed to recruit him to Tech U, but I hear there's a remake a reboot in the making. Is what I keep hearing with Denzel and Denzel. I'm sorry, with Spike and Ray. Their conversations have been ongoing. They just have to kind of get Denzel across the line, probably, to want to do a sequel of that. But man, I'm telling you, I can't play a college student any longer. I'd have to play like either the coach, John Turturro. Remember John? He's a great actor. He was my coach in that movie.
He's what?
He was my coach in He Got Game.
Man.
So it's pretty.
Maybe you can play the mentor role.
Yeah, or I could play.
Who in the league would play the Ray Allen's role? Would it be Kyle Kuzma? I mean, just based on personality alone and looks, who's like the playboy of the NBA now?
Well, have you seen the Stephen Marbury documentary? Great documentary. It's really Jesus Shuttlesworth is really kind of, I think, patterned after him and his life in Coney Island. Wow. Today's players, maybe John Morant is pretty, I think, a pretty good character. You'd probably want it to be a young, flashy, talented. I think actually Jason Tatum could probably be a good Jesus Shuttlesworth.
What about Deuce though? Deuce has got his son's got to have a role.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
A playboy with a baby on his head.
Yeah. I don't know who's. Booker. Booker's probably.
Yeah, Devin Booker.
Devin Booker's probably a good run at it as well. If it was a Laker, I could see Kyle Kuzma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Space Jam too. I'm looking forward to seeing LeBron and pull off Space Jam too. So.
Is LeBron a good actor? I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, you've worn so many hats. So, whether you choose that pop star, movie star Rick is better than, the basketball player Rick, but, just given your eye in the acting world, how's LeBron as an actor?
I like him on camera. I loved him in Trainwreck. I really did. Like I said, I'm anxious to see him in Space Jam 2. I think he's going to always surround himself with great directors and great talent, and play to that, play to his strength, allow them to really actually make him guide him through performances that are really respectable and good. I love what he's done off the camera, behind the camera as a producer and a media mogul. It's been extremely impressive. It really gives an example of what is possible for so many athletes that are now making so much money and what they can do with their brands and their influence and their finances to grow their careers outside of basketball. And content creation is a great example of that. Storytelling is another great example of that. A lot of these guys are doing it around their brands, but now they can actually find other stories and amplify other voices. And LeBron's been doing that, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does. There's a movie role that I think with Happy Madison that he's doing a movie called Hustle. I think that they've reached out to me about. I'm hoping it goes forward, because I think there's a role in there that I might be able to join that universe and bring that to light with them. That would be fun to do. And then there's one other thing. That he's doing. Oh, I can't. I follow him closely because
A lot of
such good work.
The sit-down wine table round discussions.
Yeah, the barbershop on HBO.
Yeah, the barbershop stuff.
Yeah, those have been great. I love seeing other legends of sport or entertainment, music get in there and actually have discussions about poignant topics that give you a greater sense of who those people are in their lives, what they're about, what they stand for. That's really an interesting take. It reminds me of the John Favreau Dinner for Five. Like they used to have the dinner around the table. You're probably too young to remember that series, but John kind of did a version of that around the dinner and would have interesting people from Hollywood, directors, writers, actors, and they would talk film, and I used to love that show too.
Last question from me, and this has been fantastic. First of all, I think that your next documentary should be about the Polaroids from the scene of you and Ray Allen. I think just walk in and be like, Denzel, listen, I got these. You should build a story around them. Anyways, Rick, yes. Besides watching the Lakers, win in the NBA Finals, what is the future look like for Rick Fox? What, given all the wisdom, I can feel how much older you've grown just in terms of your perspective in life, and although through tragedy you have found triumph. What's the future look like for you in terms of what you want to do with your career and just goals and lessons that you want to bestow upon either your children or other people in the NBA, other players?
Well, I think that one of the beauties that comes with growing older and still being here is, you start to reflect on not only what you've done or what you should have done, or you start to look towards what is left and what is possible to get done. And in my case, I've been blessed to play in so many different universes and have such success. But it's a lot of the failures that have kind of informed me, which has allowed me to inform my kids, but also maybe inform others of what pitfalls are out there and how to maneuver around them. You don't have to actually make the same mistakes to learn from them. You can learn from others' mistakes, and I've made my full share of those. So I'm trying to step out of the shame of them and share them and embrace them as life lessons for others. And then there's just the give back, right? The give back of how can I impact the world in a way that changes it for the better. We're in the midst of obviously a lot of conversation around just social good and social justice and the improvement of our own country, but the world at large. I'd taken interest myself personally the last year and have started another company that is really focused on sustainable building and the environment. And we have a patent around green cement that we're going to bring to the world that I believe is going to change the world for the better when it comes to just pollution and emissions and carbon emissions, and our stuff acts like a tree. So think of cement that acts like a tree, and that's what we're working on next in the next 10 years of my life beyond my business interests. This is kind of my sustainable environment give back.
Rick Fox, changing the global economy. You're changing climate change. You're changing basketball. You're changing everything. This has been so fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Go Lakers, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's hard for you guys. Hard for you to say there. But the thing we did in our championship experience is that we beat on each other constantly. We challenged each other constantly. But when we stepped in the arena, man, you could not pick on a teammate of mine. You could not go at a teammate of mine. That was my teammate to challenge. That was my teammate to fight with behind the scenes. And I would go to the death for a teammate against anyone else in the league.
Yeah.
Because that was my teammate. And I'm telling you, I had a lot of teammates I did not like. But man, I tell you, when we put that uniform on, I had nothing but their utmost respect for them. And like I said, I would take I hate violence, but I'd go to the mat for them, and over anyone else.
It's amazing, that insight, and I think that you just absolutely nailed it. I don't think personally that these, the Celtics players, they might like each other off the field, but I think on the court, that's the problem. And that's, what's creating this chemistry rift within this Celtics team. And a lot of people are blaming Danny Ainge and saying they need to bring in the next big name. And the next big name was Kyrie Irving, but Kyrie Irving was not in charge of Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is not the answer. And Kyrie Irving can't be the superstar by himself. That's why he brought in Kevin Durant. He went to Brooklyn.
Look, there's only a few of those guys.
Yeah.
In the league. I mean, they're not. There's not like there's a ton of them that you can just go get. There's only a few of them, and they, to the naked eye, it's not really easy to spot. But to those that have been through the years of chasing championships, you can point them out. I can sniff them out and see them really quickly. And I don't see one on the Lakers. I'm at the Lakers. I don't see one on the Celtics yet. You can. I don't know if you evolve into that. I think it's something that you're born and have. I see 5 really, really great players on the Celtics right now. I see 5 really, really, really good players.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that one guy that I go, yeah, I'm getting in line behind him.
Yeah.
And I think if you say you got to go find that, again, know that if someone has one of those guys, they're not just giving them up.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only maybe like 4 or 5 of them out there. So it's hard. I mean, Tim Duncan was one of them. Kobe Bryant was one of them. Shaq was one of them. LeBron's one of them. And
one of them.
Sorry?
Kevin Garnett?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chief.
Rondo's one of them. Like you get these when you stack 3 and 4 of those kind of guys on a team, now you're going somewhere. And they got thick skin. They're thick skin. They give it out. They dish it out. They can take it. They're warriors. They're nasty. They're not nice. They can be nice off the floor, but on the floor, it's just like something comes out, and there's not nice guys on the floor, and they don't care whether you think they're nice or not.
You got to have that Pat Riley crazy mentality. I can't tell you there's one person in this league that can sniff out a chief. It's Pat Riley. I would say Jimmy Butler emerged into that chief, and
that's why you saw he couldn't get along in Minnesota.
Yeah,
because as talented as those young players are, and I love them as people, they don't have that shark. They don't have that bite.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that dog. You call it that dog in them. They just don't. They kind of float through, and that's similar situation in Boston right now. Competitive individuals, they compete. They're great players. They're all stars. They're talented. You win a lot of games, but at the end of the day, when you throw the basketball out, if you're all on that court, and you said, okay, a fight's going to break out right now. Who do you think is going to win? An actual fight.
Marcus Smart.
You didn't even doubt it, right? You didn't even doubt it. You didn't doubt it for a second, right? Like, to me, you take Marcus Smart off that team and put him on any other team, that the team that he goes to takes a spike up. Huge spike up.
I think he's got somewhat of the X factor a little bit, but I mean, the mood swings from being angry and trying to inspire in the wrong way. It's rubbed a lot of people.
Because it's this generation. The generation that we live in now, you can't tell people the truth. You can't talk to them the way maybe he grew up, being talked to or talking to teammates like when he played, as a younger player. That's the era I came from. I'd rather you tell me to my face what you think about something than tiptoe around me. I get body language, and I use your words. Tell me what you got to say, and then we'll just move on from there.
Do you think it's made this generation of basketball players a little soft?
Yeah, it's okay. It's a soft era. It speaks to this generation in general. It doesn't make it a bad era. I think the skills and the talent has grown. Actually, I think the players today are far better players than say we were. I believe that. I think their skills are better. I think their talent level is better. But they don't beat each other up. They don't have to. They don't have to. It's just the rules of the game now. It's not their fault. It's a softer league, which is fine. But it makes it a more entertaining and more graceful league. I mean, do you want a game where Rick Fox is on the floor and I'm just literally beating the opponent up physically the whole game? That's not very attractive,
No.
So it's a different era. I actually like it. I like it because I get to watch the players really pull their skills out and put them to use instead of being, the era of the '90s that I grew up in, where the Knicks were beating you up and you were beating them up.
Pistons.
Yeah, exactly. I don't miss that at all. I tell you, these players are going to feel a lot different in their old age than I do right now, for sure.
All right, I'm going to leave you with this. With one question. Top 3 greatest players of all time. According to Rick Fox.
Wow.
Give me a top 3, and there's no judging.
Mike is always going to be on my list. Kobe because of affection, and Shaq because of affection.
Okay.
Those are my 3.
Okay.
Mike mentored me, and because of Shaq and Kobe, I got 3 championships. So
okay.
it's hard for me to ever